Good evening. Tonight I'm here to present to you the 2022 State of the City. First, I want to acknowledge the legislative branch of government that serves our city council. I want to recognize each of them as they are 7 independently elected individuals who are dedicated to our city. Councilmember Christiana Johnson, Will Chen, Neil Tibbet, Diane Buckshness, Vivian Olson, Susan Payne, and Laura Johnson. I look forward to working with all of you this coming year. Tonight, I want to share with you where we are as a city, where we were as a city, where we are now, and where we are going. This week is the 2-year mark of when COVID first was discovered in our country, right here in Snohomish County. We have all suffered loss because of COVID. Loss of freedom of movement, loss of companionship, loss of loved ones. We faced massive changes. Our businesses closed, we were stuck in our homes, our kids could not be at school. We've had to be creative in how we live, how we work, and play in this new environment. We found new ways to interact, to meet, to use our outdoor spaces. We have discovered what really matters and what does not. And what is unmistakable is our desire to be connected with each other. Because of you, in spite of it all, we are moving forward as a city. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming together to help us get through this. We are now able to get vaccines. Many are back at work. Our businesses are now open. Our kids are back to school. We still have a way to go. But in spite of all, we are moving forward as a city. Now I want to update you on where we are now as a city. Last year, I shared with you some of my priorities for 2021. Those were to start making Highway 99 more livable, help our most vulnerable residents, be more equitable and inclusive, protect our parks and expand open spaces, and support our local businesses. Today, I want to provide you with an update on where we are on some of these projects. Last year, I talked about hoping to open a new satellite city office along Highway 99 to better improve how our local government can come to you. A place where you can connect to use city services, respond to concerns, and be a community resource. Well, it took longer than I wanted, because of course we had to find that right place, but I'm happy to report that at the end of December, I signed a lease for that new space. In fact, I'm speaking to you right now from our new neighborhood city office. But instead of me trying to describe what it looks like, why don't you come along with me as we explore the office and meet some of your new neighbors. So I'm going to mask up here. Don't go anywhere. You still got to come along. All right. So right here actually is, besides the camera crew here, is the reception area. This is the entryway when you come in for your general city services. So yet to be furnished, as you can see, it's really rough and ready. And then we're going to come on down to go check out where our community court is going to be held. All right, here. So I think the lights work. Let me see if I can find that. We got 1 and 2. And oh, wait, look, there's Judge Whitney Rivera. Hi, Judge.
Hi, welcome to our community court.
Look at that. As you can see, it's not quite ready yet, but we've already got some furniture coming in. So it's all happening. So anyway, thank you so much, Judge Rivera, for dropping on by. All right.
Thank you for visiting us.
Let's go on next to the next spot. Let's see here. We got a restroom. And then here, if we come out, you can see here, oh, look, we've got Tabitha, our community engagement coordinator.
This is where the magic happens.
Look at that. Now, as you can see, we're still in a state of this building here. So this is actually desks that are upright. So, but Tabitha Shoemaker is our new community engagement coordinator from the police department. Thank you for being here. Hi.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And then we got one more spot to check out way back over here. It's gonna be, oh my goodness, there's our police chief, Chief Michelle Bennett. So this is an area where some of our police officers will have some of our workstations. So I think, as you can see, we're not quite there yet, but thank you so much, Chief, for being here.
Of course, absolutely.
All right. Now, thank you. Now, I know probably the biggest thing is, when are you going to open up the city offices? And as you can see, we still have a lot way to go, but our target date right now is to have everything open to the public in early March. But that being said, our police and our courts plan to use the space before then. So hopefully, by, I just here on my notes, the court will have a community court before then, and then our police will potentially be able to use the space on President's Day, the 21st of February. However, I'm pushing to have it done earlier. All right. So now we'll transition back over to the other camera. Next, I want to talk to you about, last year we talked about designing a safer highway to make it more welcoming along Highway 99. This fully funded project along Highway 99 will begin from 244th Street Southwest to 212th Street. It is 2.25 miles long corridor with collision rates ranked as one of the highest in the state. This project will convert the existing center to left lane, turn lane right away with a mid-block turn points. It's all this technical stuff here. Anyway, basically it's going to have a lot of trees, a lot of barriers buried alongside. There will be a hawk signal, which is a pedestrian activated signal north of 234th Street, and that will provide one additional pedestrian crossing. And also we'll have gateway signs that will be on both ends of the corridor. And this project will create a safer corridor by reducing the number of vehicle crashes, improve conditions for active transportation users, and it's going to create a visual identity when you're entering Edmonds from either direction. I'm happy to report that the Highway 99 Renewal and Gateway project is scheduled to be constructed and completed this year. This $10 million project is one example of the significant investment our city is making in this neighborhood. Last year, I talked about the creation of a human services program to help our seniors, those who are housing unstable and unsheltered, and prevent those from becoming homeless. I'm proud to report this new program has helped 170 residents experiencing homelessness, housing instability, food insecurity, domestic violence, and other household needs. Our program managed long-term motel vouchers for Edmonds emergency shelter program through the Washington Department of Commerce. We received 499 applications for the federal ARPA-funded household support grants. Our program processed and paid out $234,000 in grants last year to families in need. We finalized an agreement with Compass Health for a dedicated social worker. Contract was approved by our city council, and we're currently recruiting that position. Our program coordinated cooling and misting station setup and communications during the heat wave that we had, as well as a warming center and cold weather shelter setup, volunteer recruitment, and operation during cold weather. Our program also established the Edmonds Homelessness Task Force, a collaboration between first responders, social workers, local shelters, faith institutions, elected officials, and city staff. We'll be sharing those recommendations next week. Last year, I spoke about our opportunity to rebuild in a way to achieve even greater equity, inclusion, fairness, and dignity for all members of our society. In response to this challenge, our residents produced a citywide equity and social justice toolkit and work plan for our city to follow. Each city department head worked on a work plan during 2021, and established priorities. These departments' roadmaps will be finalized with an overall goal of community engagement. It will guide city actions towards equity in the coming year. It will put systems in place that create both expectations and a discipline to achieve the goals the city has adopted. We anticipate this citywide roadmap in the next 2 months. And though this work is clear that through this work, it was very clear we needed to create a permanent person or support guide, permanent guide to help us support this work. That is why last year we put in the city's 2022 budget a new position called a Racial Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Manager. You will hear that phrase READY, and that's the acronym for what it stands for. This year we will hire a new READY program manager to support the departments in the implementation of the equity work plan, and we will also provide support to the city organizational equity team. Organizations have, for these efforts to be fruitful, organizations have had to back up their good intentions with resources, putting time, energy, and money to ensure that diversity and awareness-raising work is an integral part of organizational culture. While many organizations are new to this kind of work and have it in their principal values, intent is just the beginning. It takes a lot to implement these strategies and initiatives that address and prevent biases in the workplace and that promote inclusivity, recognition, respect, and appreciation. As to why now, as a nation, we have been very aware that our governmental institutions are structured with inherent systems of racism. Many government organizations are publicly prioritizing their commitment to change governmental structures and practices in service of better, more equitable outcomes. Right now, we have an opportunity to address this question of how cities can dismantle systems of racism in government and invest in lasting and meaningful change. In order for our program to be successful, there must be someone who's dedicated and responsible for advancing that program. It creates a continuity of this work, and it shows understanding that equity is not a one-time project, but rather a continual piece of work in our city that we must engage in, and that is no different from any other regular services that our city provides. Last year, I talked about our desire to honor our Indigenous peoples in a more meaningful way. The city has developed a program to honor Indigenous people, but unfortunately it was canceled due to COVID safety issues. Our city continues to work to develop relationships with the Salish Sea tribes as a community partner for opportunities to learn and honor their history and culture. We are also developing a potential public art piece along the waterfront that would provide a strong visual by Indigenous artists and be educational for many visitors to our beaches. Last year, I talked about art grants for projects that focus on the challenges faced by the arts to address social concerns and diversity and equity. I am proud to announce our Edmonds Arts Commission created this grant program and has awarded $36,500 in grants last year to projects in performing visual and literary arts with the purpose to help build and reinforce a diverse, accessible, and equitable cultural community in Edmonds. Last year, I talked about our desire to expand and protect our parks and open spaces. Through extensive research, the city has discovered 20 more acres of waterfront and tidelands north of Brackett's Landing that are now accessible to our residents. I believe we have an image of that. The city also acquired 1 acre parcel which will expand Yost Park and will enable our city to conserve a piece of its agricultural and farming history. And with the help from our local state legislative representatives, our city secured the first rights of refusal for the 21-acre marsh expansion Unocal Chevron property. This will position our city to be in front of the line once that marshland becomes available for purchase. For the past year, folks may not know this, but our city has been in acquisition discussions and negotiations with landowners for several parcels, including Perrinville Woods and a 3-acre undeveloped parcel along Highway 99. We've brought the owner's asking price before the City Council. However, we have yet to come to a purchase agreement that is fiscally acceptable and feasible for the city. Discussions will continue, and we have more properties will be reviewed this year. Last year, I discussed updating our strategic plan for enhancing parks, open space, trails, and recreation opportunities. I'm proud to announce this plan called the 2022 Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan, or commonly known as PROS. I don't know what it is in government, we love acronyms, but anyway. Has been through an extensive community engagement process over the past year, and the draft plan is currently available for public review and comment. This plan establishes the Edmonds priorities for recreation programs, parks, trails, and open space, and facilities for the next decade, and is slated for council review and adoption next month. Please consider reviewing this plan if you're interested. More information can be found at our City Parks and Recreation website. And I just wanted, it's a very large document, over 230 pages, but I just want to highlight there was a bunch of surveys that were done, and I want to share just a little bit with you, a snapshot, if you will, of that. Over 99% of the survey participants feel that public parks and recreation opportunities are important to the essential quality of life in Edmonds, with 88% of us visiting parks or recreation facilities at least once a month in Edmonds. Folks also indicated their highest unmet need is for pedestrian and bike trails, 84%. And some of the things they want to see improve are existing parks as well as acquiring additional land for conservation and open space. Interestingly enough, 56% expressed a greater need for community events. And one of the recommendations in the report you will find in this plan is the acquisition of additional parks is necessary in specific parts of our city, specifically the South Edmonds area and along the Highway 99 corridor. It recommends that 3 new parks be added to this area. I encourage you to check it out, and you can find more detailed information on the plan I believe we're showing now. I also discussed last year to restore salmon habitat and help combat the pollution of our waterways, that we were going to bring on an outside assistance to review our policies and procedures to make our city salmon safe. The Salmon Safe project is currently underway with conditional certification for our city expected in May of this year. It includes a thorough review of the city's current city operations and policies around water quality that support salmon populations, which focus on our public works, parks, and development services departments. The report of their findings and recommendations will be available for public comment and also council adoption. Last year, I talked about our local economy. I'm happy to report our local economy continues to be strong and improve. From December of 2021 to December of last year, December 20th, so in a 1-year time frame, and if you look at 3 sources of our general fund revenues, and those are property, real estate, sales tax and development related revenues, we brought in $2.5 million more than the previous year. If you add the lodging tax and real estate excise tax, that overall increase is $4.2 million more than in 2020, year to date. Sales tax revenue alone was $1.985 thousand higher, so $1.9,850,000 higher than they were in December of 2020. Last year, our city helped 21 small businesses with COVID relief grants totaling $182,000. This is an ongoing program that will continue as needed in the coming years. I've shared with you where we have been, where we are now as a city. Now I want to talk to you about where we are going as a city with my priorities for 2022. These priorities are making Edmonds more livable, building connections to improve public safety, and a new vision for public spaces. Making Edmonds more livable. One way we can do that is a public process for naming a new neighborhood. The city is committed to improving the livability of Highway 99 area while celebrating the community assets that are already there. We've hired a consultant to work closely with the community to develop an action-oriented community renewal plan starting in the first quarter of this year. And as we launch this work, we will engage the Highway 99 community stakeholders to formally name their neighborhood. A new name will help strengthen identity, bolster community cohesion, and bring new energy into this dynamic community. We plan to do a series of interviews and stakeholder meetings along with broader surveys to capture ideas over the next couple of months. Based on the success of last year's summer's Uptown market, we will double the frequency of those markets. We will be having every 2 weeks this summer during the evening. We are currently looking for a new location, however, as last year's spot is no longer available, so stay tuned. Next, I want to share with you a very important and I think timely thing, and that is our new emergency communications campaign. Recently, we've seen the havoc that extreme weather and tsunami warning can suddenly create. This is why we'll be launching a new campaign to encourage residents to sign up to the county's Smart 911. This free system benefits the residents of Edmonds by providing timely warnings and information to severe weather events and natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, wildfire, I need to add tsunamis, from the Snohomish County Department of Emergency Management and the Washington State Division of Emergency Management. This system also provides the City of Edmonds a way to send Edmonds-specific information on all types of emergency and disaster events and preparation for those events, as well as other city information from Public Works, Police, and Emergency Management. This system is extremely beneficial to our residents by offering the opportunity to choose what kind of emergency alerts you wish to receive, and allows you to add more information to the household, about your household, which can be used by 911 dispatchers to relay to those responding to your emergency. You can go right now to our city website to sign up, and I believe you can see that right now. I also want to briefly touch on another subject that has been exacerbated by COVID, and the livability of our city, and that is homelessness. In the coming weeks, my administration will be taking on more steps to address homelessness to ensure we exercise compassion and provide more shelter and critical services to help those most in need. But for those who refuse assistance, you will not be able to stay overnight in our public spaces. My second priority for this year is to build connections to improve public safety. One of the best ways we can measure this is by taking proactive steps as opposed to reactive steps. Instead of calling the police when you have an emergency, how can we have the police meet you before that emergency ever happens? And one way to do that is have our police department build those close relationships with all of our community that they serve. Our new police community engagement coordinator, who you just met earlier, Tabitha, is going to help build those connections. And I want to share some of the things she is working on this year, COVID permitting. She's working on Domestic Violence Month, Family Court Awareness, crime prevention neighborhood meetings, crime prevention meetings about package thieves and Cadillac converter theft, engaging with our Uptown businesses and the Chamber of Commerce, adopt a Senior Pet Month, mentoring program for at-risk youth, and is in discussions with the Snohomish County Latin community on how the police can better serve our Latin community, and discussions with the food bank to mentor youth volunteers, launching a volunteer program, and recognizing scams presentation with our senior center. The third priority I want to share with you now is a new vision for our public spaces. The pandemic has emphasized the importance of public space as a safe and inclusive gathering location. This was very evident during the governor's lockdowns when businesses were shut down, occupancy was reduced, and events canceled. People united in public space to meet their social needs, those connections that we so yearn for. We've had robust discussions about streeteries, to say the least, and while we've heard voices in opposition, the majority of residents in a citywide survey thought that they enhanced downtown. At council meetings, people of all ages came out in support and commented how streeteries have enabled them to see their neighbors and socialize in public in a way they had not been able to pre-pandemic. Just imagine if we could have a greater portion of our streets to improve connectivity for people walking, for planting landscapes and trees, and for creating new spaces where people can socialize and see their neighbors. 77% of our public space lies in our streets. It is critical that we allocate space on streets to activities that serve environmental, social, and health outcomes. Streets that are planted with continuous planting strips, trees, or green stormwater infrastructure enhance environmental functionality, and they also foster walking, which thereby reduces traffic and carbon emissions. This initiative that I'm introducing tonight will create a Green Street network that will map out areas that are conducive for expansive landscaping and can treat stormwater and reduce flooding. People are attracted to our local restaurants, retail shops, and parks. It is important that we leverage these social districts and afford the opportunity for people to stop and stay. This new initiative will create a new public space that provides room on the street for those social interactions and prioritize an investment strategy that identifies public and private funding opportunities. And the Parks Pros plan I mentioned earlier identified one of the top community interests is improving walkability and access to parks. By reconsidering our existing street usage, we can make space for sidewalks that connect places of interest, improve safety of pedestrians, and can create spaces for social interaction. This new initiative will create new standards that raise the expectation for a pedestrian infrastructure, and we will map out a pedestrian network to prioritize those private and public investment that will help build landscaped streets with sidewalks. All right, in summary, I know you've been waiting. In summary, we have come a long way from when COVID arrived 2 years ago. We've successfully adapted and reprioritized what is most important to our community, our connections to each other. Our city is now making Highway 99 more livable. We're helping our most vulnerable, taking action on equity and inclusion, expanding our parks, and supporting our local economy. We still have much work to do in these areas, but we are not stopping there. We're going to take more steps to make Edmonds livable for all, build community connections to improve public safety, and evolve our streets to create new public spaces for our neighbors to gather. My friends, Edmonds is and will continue to be a caring and vibrant community because I know that regardless of what the future may hold, we will move forward together. Thank you and good night.